probably the main thing going on in the industry at the moment, because it's been a bit quiet recently. We've had a bit of a pickup with a few releases in the last week or so. Main one being Lil Tjay's, is it his second proper studio album? I believe it is. Not obviously second project, but second studio album has come out. And Joe, have a little chat about it.
It's actually strange because I've seen him get like a lot of hate on Twitter and on Instagram and especially on TikTok about everything sounds the same and all that stuff. But I don't see that personally. I mean, True to Myself was like proper good. And then I sort of expected this one to be as good and if not better, and I wasn't disappointed in, like, for me anyway, but I'm just surprised to see as much hate as he's been getting, because there's definitely like 4, 5, 6, 7 bangers on there that are top tier, like especially like Run It Up and Calling My Phone, which has been the main one. And there's a bit of Love on there as well, which is definitely fitting in with my sort of thing. So I really like it, and I can't see many bad songs on there, to be honest.
Yeah, fair enough. I'm with you. I don't understand hate, because at the end of the day, I just think hate in general is ridiculous, pointless. And why would you hate an artist? At the end of the day, they've delivered music, they've worked hard on it, and if you don't like it so much, all right, fine, don't listen to it. But at the end of the day, they've delivered the music, and we should all be grateful in a way. But what I can agree with some people on is it being quite similar. There are definitely different songs in there, that's without a doubt. Obviously, he does demonstrate a few different styles, but to be honest, I don't know why people are too shocked, because I'd say that Lil Tjay isn't one of the most diverse artists. I think that's safe to say. Like, he can obviously sing really well, and he can obviously rap extremely well as well. But I'd say that in terms of the style of song he delivers, they have often been quite similar throughout his career. He's not really done like a completely different style in terms of like the way everything's pieced together. His music often, in the end, sounds fairly similar. Some are a bit harder, and some are obviously a bit softer as well in terms of his delivery, and that's sort of how it's always been. I can understand what people say. Some of them do blend in a little bit, but I'd say there are definitely the standout tracks. But also mainly at the end of the day, that's how music always used to be. And I think a lot of people now, they don't realise that, because the majority of artists that release now do extremely diverse tracks, and it's all different. It's like, oh, this track's completely different to that track. Whereas albums used to be that, yeah, every track was fairly similar, because that would be that artist's distinct style, and that would be the way that they make music. And nowadays, I think people are spoiled, because we have had some incredibly diverse people like Juice WRLD, X, all of these sort of people, that now people think, well, that's how it should be. And it's like, well, not really, because not everyone can do about 40 different styles, if you know what I mean.
Well, I just feel like you have to remember these rappers are young. Like Lil Tjay's 19, 20. Same with like the Kid Laroi and stuff, when he got loads of hate. But I just look at it and think, you aren't going to get an album which has 17, 18 songs. You're not going to get 18 songs with absolutely no skips, or one that you don't fancy as much. Like, there's a couple on there. I think Gang Gang, off the top of my head, is one that I'm not too keen on, because like the chorus is a bit dead, and he just sort of like says the same thing over and over again. But that's fine. You're always going to get that on a project, and it doesn't mean I don't like him or whatever. But I sort of agree with what you say on the fact that if you don't rate something or whatever, you don't need to go out of your way to hate on someone who's just trying to, get their bag, sort of thing. Like, they're just trying to do their thing, and more importantly for him, I think his fans probably love this, from what I've seen, and I definitely do. So I don't think he's got anything to worry about.
Yeah, at the end of the day, that people are always going to have that core fan base and that core audience that are always going to be there anyway. Like you mentioned the Kid Laroi thing. We won't go into it too much because this section's about TJ's album, but he has had a lot of hate from people. And to be honest, I think the most of that hate comes from he seems like he's classed as a rapper because of his past and because of the music he came up on, and obviously elements of his music now. But because of that, people hold him to this standard of like, oh, you need to, release this many rap songs in your project. You need to do this, you need to do that. You need to rap about certain things. You need to talk about certain things. Whereas Leroy has sort of shaken up the industry a little bit in terms of for some reason he's classed as a rapper, but he really doesn't act like one very often. Like he's sort of, I get that his style and the people he hangs around with are all rappers and everything. And he's in the scene, but his music is like almost pop music, really. But with a bit of an edge to it in terms of the way he delivers some of the things and some of the lyrics. There's a bit more of an edge to it, and his style has a bit more of an edge. But in general, that's the sort of genre that he fits in terms of what the music sounds like. And then because of that, people just hate him, because you get all the traditional like hip hop heads that like it all to be very hard and want everyone to sound like Tupac. And it's like, well, yeah, but you've got to open your eyes and realise that that's just not how it is, and let these people do what they do. And it comes back to the thing I said earlier. Instead of slagging them off, instead of saying this, saying that, if you don't really like that bit and you don't like that artist or that style, just don't listen to it and let them get on with their thing, because I guarantee there's a lot of people that do. I mean, you look at their numbers, obviously TJ's doing well. He's been doing well for a while, but recently I think he's getting to the level he sort of deserves. But Leroy's absolutely blew up.
Yeah, definitely.
So like people are listening, so there's obviously a market there.
It's just the thing with TJ is that like Call on My Phone's done like 160 mil now, and everyone wanted that song. Okay, he probably teased it a bit too much on TikTok and places like that, because everyone sort of, I wouldn't say they weren't hyped when it came out. They were just a bit like, well, we've sort of heard this for about a month already, but I just think he's smart, because when I'll use that song solely as the example that when it came out, everyone wanted Polo G on it, or people like the Kid Laroi, and then he put Black on it, who fits the track perfectly. That, you know, he switches up the vibe a little bit, but it's literally just fits perfect with the whole track. And I think no one would have picked Black as a feature, but since he has, it was the perfect feature. And I just think he's clever. The same with Run It Up with Offset and Moneybagg Yo. They're both absolutely like class on the track, and I just think he's clever, but people probably don't see that, because everyone wants their own genre of music to come out all the time. They want the same thing, but you have to switch it up and listen to different things and stuff, otherwise it's just going to be boring.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have this idea that like these rappers and stuff make the music for them, and what they've got to realise is they actually don't. And a lot of people might think, what? Like, they get all their money, they get everything from us. It's all about the fans and liking their music. Well, I hate to break it to you lads, but a lot of the artists, that isn't the case. They're not making it for you. They're making it, one, for themselves because they enjoy it, but mainly they're making it for a label or a bigger team, because they've got to keep them happy, because they're the ones that are giving them most of their cash. And that is what loads of people don't realise. We've definitely seen a rise and a wave in people doing things on their own and being more independent. And I'm all for that. And those artists are absolutely killing it. But a lot of these artists, especially ones like Lil Tjay, who literally came up from nothing, have to have a label and a backing behind them to get anywhere, especially because of their image and the things they've done in their past. The mainstream will not accept them unless they've got some kind of like corporate production label background. So they're not always making music for you. And you touched on it in a last video, not the last video, but one of the recent videos, that when people were moaning about Call on My Phone, saying, oh, we've heard this loads before, all these leaks and all that, you said, yeah, but you don't realise he'll have a label, and there's complications. Maybe he couldn't get it out. Maybe they wanted to wait because of the strategy. They thought, well, we'll have to release that one a bit later. Or maybe they were telling him, tease the fuck out of this song, because we know this is a hit, but I want you to tease it before it comes out. So when it comes out, everyone is just on it straight away. They don't realise that all these sort of releases and stuff and these power plays are done by the label, and the same happens for the album as well. He will have most of the control and creative integrity for his album. He can make it how he wants mostly, but there will be a case of like, we want some songs of this style on there, we want most of the songs to be this sort of style, and they'll reference his previous music. He has to please them as well at the end of the day, because they are his employers. At the end
of the day, there is obviously some label shit in it as well, but an artist is going to make what an artist wants to make. It's, the fans aren't going to be like, oh, you have to do this, you have to do that. It's up to them at the end of the day. It's their life, and if you don't like it, then as far as they're concerned, they probably don't care. But I don't know if you've seen that. I think YBN Demir dropped a project like recently, and there's a questionable amount of songs on there. But he's obviously done it because he wants to make them sort of songs. They're just terrible. But it's an example of the fact that people don't make music because they want, you know what I mean? Like, let's take 6ix9ine, like classic 6ix9ine just screams, and that's what people loved about him. But then when he switched it up and did sort of more sort of soft rap, it was still good. I mean, it's not good anymore, but it was still good at that time. And it's just like, he chose to do it, or the label chose to do it, or whatever. And like you say, when they know it's a hit, they're going to try and get the best outcome of it. If he released Calling My Phone straight away, Lil Tjay, you know, would it have had the same success as what it has, you know, after he left it? You don't know.
Yeah, no, of course I'm with that, and I think he has to play into the strategy, one of his own. Like, maybe he wanted to release these things at a certain time. Maybe he wanted to release it closer to the time when he knew his full project was ready, because he didn't want to drop it months and months before like he could have, and then fans just sit there with that, and then there not be as much hype for his project. Obviously, he wanted to release a banger like that he knew was going to get mad traction because it's a catchy song and it fits the style for a lot of people in the mainstream. Why would he release that months before when he could release that a week, 2, 3 before his album drops? So there's so much hype surrounding his name, and obviously that track's features on the album. So people are going to cotton onto the album and find more tracks from the album when they've listened to Calling My Phone. We know how Spotify works and all that stuff. You put the Calling My Phone on, and then after that, it'll probably just play the rest of the album. Like, that's how it is. So, you know, it makes sense for him to do that at the end of the day. And a lot of people just see it from their perspective as like, we want the music now, we're the fans, we want to listen to this and that. And it's like, yeah, but they've got to do it properly. At the end of the day, there's a reason why they're there, and you're just sitting on the sofa listening to it, because they're not only do they make great music, but they know what to do with it as well.
So what do you actually think of the album? Like, what sort of songs do you like, and why?
Yeah, we definitely need to get to that point. And I was going to jump back to it as well, because you mentioned, I've just got it up on my phone now, Run It Up with like of Offset and Moneybagg Yo as well. I love that track. You know I would love that track. I remember hearing the snippet for that. I think you sent it to me. He obviously did an Instagram video on the snippet to that. Obviously at that point we didn't know that Offset would be on it and all that sort of stuff. But I loved that snippet. It sounded really, really good. It's very catchy. I love the melody. I love the sort of the hook and the build up to the chorus as well. I absolutely love that. And I think Offset, you know, I'm a massive fan of Offset, especially recently. I've just fallen in love with his music, because I think he's just got a very unique style. And I think he suits that track down to the ground at the end of the day. And I think his part is very good. Love his lyrics. And actually, I really like Moneybagg Yo on it. I've always sort of like slept on him a bit. Like, I know he's done a lot with Lil Baby in the past. Like, he's featured in quite a lot of our videos and stuff as like a side mention, because he's been part of like documentaries, stuff like that. Like, he's done stuff with the Baby as well, I think. So he's always sort of been there, but we've never really like proper covered him, because he doesn't grab my attention that much. But like, this is probably my favourite performance from him, I heard as well. I think on that track he did a really good job. And in general, I think it is a really strong project. I'll be honest, I've not listened to it enough to proper differentiate between the songs, because as I was saying, I do understand what people say, that a lot of them are quite similar. I don't necessarily have a problem with that, but it just means because I've not listened to it as much as I'd want to, as it only came out like a few days ago, I've not been able to proper differentiate, right, I like this one, I'm not so sure on that one, blah, blah. I'd need to listen to it a bit longer to note that. But in general, I really am a fan of the project. And to be honest, from when I've listened through it, there's a few songs in there that I'd be like, oh yeah, this one's not as good, this one doesn't catch me as much, and maybe this one's a bit more boring. But there isn't a single one I don't like. So I don't have an issue with any of it. And what's your thoughts? I know what you're going to say your favourite is, but go for it.
Yeah, I don't think there's many bad songs. I think I mentioned Gang Gang earlier. I'm not keen on that, and I've only listened to it a few times, so it might grow on me. You never know. there's probably too many songs to name that I like, but I think the standouts one, Love Hurts, I think I knew I would always like. And I think 2C is a decent feature as well. I think he does alright. I kind of would have liked to have seen it just be TJ on his own, but I think he makes up for that with What You Want to Do. That song is probably my favourite, to be honest. Definitely at the moment, anyway. I mean, it always changes. Like, I like Hood Rich, I like Run It Up, I like a lot of them. So, it's so early to tell if it's like better than his last album, because his last album was really good, and it obviously had a lot of the tracks that sort of introduced me and you to TJ. You know, with Goat and things like that. So I'm not sure how I would rank it in terms of that, but I think it's definitely good. He's definitely sort of leveling up a bit and getting to a level where, you know, he wants to reach. But he's young, so he's got plenty of time to get to that level. Because you know, you see a few people like 6ix9ine, as we've mentioned, who was massive for a while and then sort of has fallen off now. And you don't want that to happen to Lil Tjay, because at the moment I'm really rating him, and I think his music's quality. So hopefully it doesn't happen to him as well.
Yeah, I can't see it. I think he's too talented. Like with 6ix9ine, again, we won't go into it big, but he never was really talented. What he was talented at was the marketing and getting people engaged. And then I think since he came out of jail and his whole image changed, he's not really been able to gather the same sort of attention and interest, because his image obviously relied on before the sort of controversial gangster side, causing loads of trouble and everyone being like, well, what is this guy going to do next? He's mental. Whereas now everyone sort of looks at him and goes, we know you're just chatting shit now, mate, because we know that you'd fold. We know that you're not really about it. We know that all you're doing is just doing anything you can to get attention. So the sort of the mystique of 6ix9ine and like, oh, what's he actually like? Is he actually this mental? Is he actually this hard? All this sort of stuff, that's all gone. So because of that, his music suffered, because his music never was really good. It was just marketed really well, and also it was like, at the time, it was obviously, whoa, this is different, with his like screaming stuff and everything. Whereas Lil Tjay, he stands out less than 6ix9ine, but that'll actually do him favours, because I think long term he will be there because he's actually talented, and his actual talent will carry him through. Like I just wanted to mention like songs like A Regular Love. I remembered I really love that song. It's got that very nice slow sort of style, very love related, and there are a lot of love related songs on here which TJ said he was going to do, and they seem to be going down really well as well. So I think that's a great move from him. And then obviously on the flip side of that, I've already mentioned Run It Up, which is a bit of a harder style, but of course also the lead single for this, Headshot, which came out just before the album was released. And that is just an incredible track. Obviously, we finally got another TJ and Polo collaboration, which we've been wanted. Fivio Foreign also did an amazing job as well on that track. And I think in general, that's absolutely is hard. It's got great rap flows in there. It's got like the power delivery. It's got everything you'd want from that style of music. So that's what I'm saying. I think he's covered all bases. All of his like genres and all his styles have been covered very well, with the sort of singing softer side and the hard rap. Obviously his verse on Headshot is too short, let's be honest, but it's very, very impressive, that's for sure.